back, everyone, to Season 3, Episode 2 of Osoroshi Saturday, where you can see we've changed the format a little bit. We start out first with a little bit of urban legends or creepypastas, moving on from there into ghosts on film, some of people's favorite stuff to watch, and last but not least, a new section which is suggestions for anything from horror movies to horror games. I hope you enjoy getting taken to the world your parents always warned you about here on Osoroshi Saturday! One of the very first stories we've got here tonight on Osoroshi Saturday concerns one of my most favorite creepy objects in Japan, and that is the okiku doll. The okiku doll is a very creepy looking doll. If you haven't taken a look at this doll before, you should look it up on the internet right now and see how scary of a face some of these dolls have. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do first is read you a little bit of history about how the whole legend behind the okiku doll got started, and it is one that goes all the way back to Edo era Japan. It is a doll that is said to be possessed by a child that has spread through curiosity throughout Japan. The doll, Okiku, named after a girl who played with it, is said to have beady black eyes and hair that grows. The doll was bought by a 17-year-old boy named Eikichi Suzuki in 1918. He went to Tanuki Koji, a famous shopping street, and bought the doll for Okiku, his 2-year-old sister. She loved the doll and played with it every day, but a year later, she died of a cold and complications thereof. The doll was placed at the household altar and the family prayed to it every day in memory of Okiku. A while later, the family noticed its hair starting to grow. That was when they started to think about Okiku as the doll. The family had the hair tested in a lab, and this is a fact. The lab results came back that the hair growing from the doll was human. Now apparently this is something that is on record in here in Japan. In 1938, the Suzuki family moved to a different town and they placed the doll at the Mannenji Temple, where it has remained ever since. The hair continues to grow every year and the people of Japan hold a ceremony there in memory of Okiku. They trim her hair as part of the ritual. Nobody had ever been able to explain how the hair grew, but at the lab, they were able to find it is not only human, but belongs to a small child. What I'm going to read from here on out are some different arguments and different research that's been done about the Okiku doll, containing whether or not some of the stuff that's been talked about is fact, fiction, or something that blurs a line in between. This is on a board called Straight Dope, which is not concerning drugs, but actually concerning scientific facts relating to creepypastas and urban legends. Very interesting little board. It says, this doll is part of popular folklore. The doll is real and supposedly it belonged to a 2-year-old girl who died suddenly of a cold. The doll wound up in a local tent where it's said to this day you can go see it. The funky part is that the doll's hair keeps growing. They trim it and it grows back. There is a storeroom with 100 wigs of various sizes. This may be some sort of aspect that people do not realize. Are these changed out, or is something else going on? All right, another person writes in here that, from analysis here in Japan where I live, the backstory of the doll was invented out of a whole cloth. It first appeared in 1962 in an article in a woman's magazine, although the story offered in different types of details from the original and current version. To give an example of a few of the changed details, the name of the dead girl was changed, the year the doll was given at the temple, who gave the doll to the temple and what the relationship to the girl was, and how the growing hair was discovered. The current version of the story first appears in a 1968 article written by the same author as the 1962 article. The analysis gives a couple of potential explanations for why the doll's hair might change length, but nothing that would change it significantly enough to match the claims made by the urban legend. More importantly, the analysis states that the claim is just that the doll's hair grew, not that it's been continuously growing ever since the girl's death. That claim wasn't made in either of the original articles or the version of the myth from the collection of Japanese urban legends cited on the page. It must also have been tracked at some point. Also, the dolls in pre-war Japan were made with real human hair. So there's nothing particularly noteworthy about the doll's hair being real. The fact that it is a young girl's hair does make it a bit disturbing though. So there you have it. It seems some of the most real aspects of this is that most likely the hair on the doll is actually human hair. The fact that it is a young girl's human hair is a little bit creepy, but it may just be cut hair from a girl. It's not necessarily a dead girl's human hair. That being said, it still holds a lot of creepiness in the log of many, many Japanese urban legends. Our next little urban legend or creepypasta, one that kind of blurred the line between both of them because it came out during a time when urban legends were kind of mutating into creepypastas, is known as Red Room or the Red Room Curse. What I'm going to go ahead and do is read a little bit of this first and then give you a little bit of what I actually know has happened in relation to reality in Japan and reportings in the news connected to this urban legend, making it all the more scarier. The Red Room or the Red Room Curse. The Red Room story is an internet legend about a pop-up window which appears on the victim's computer. The image simply shows a red door and records a voice, "Do you like?" and then stops. Even if the pop-up is closed, it will repeatedly appear until the voice finally completes the question of, "Do you like, do you like, do you like the red room?" Sometimes the story says that it also says, "Do you like the color red?" or "Do you like red?" Akai ga daisuki, akai ski. Those are the different Japanese translations I have heard that this story says. Those who have seen the pop-up are found dead later, their walls painted red in their own blood. The legend began with a flash animation of a young boy being cursed after encountering the pop-up, but gained notoriety when it was found that a schoolgirl who committed the sasebo slashing in 2004 had the video as a bookmark. Now, the sasebo slashing in 2004 is a very real. It refers to the murder of a 12-year-old Japanese schoolgirl, Satomi Mitarai, by an 11-year-old female classmate. Reactions to the incident have included internet memes and discussion of lowering the age of criminal responsibility in Japan. The murder occurred on June 1st, 2004 at an elementary school in Sasebo, Nagasaki Prefecture. It involved the slitting of Mitarai's throat and arms with a utility knife, also known as an X-Acto knife. The killer's real name has not yet been released to the press, as her Japanese legal procedures prohibiting the identification of juvenile offenders. Japanese police refer to the girl as Girl A. The Nagasaki District Legal Affairs Bureau cautioned internet users against revealing her photos. On June 1st, 2004, the 11-year-old schoolgirl murdered the 12-year-old classmate Satomi Mitarai in an empty classroom during the lunch hour at Okubo Elementary School in Sasebo. She then left Mitarai's body and returned to her own classroom, her clothes covered in blood. The girl's teacher, who had noticed that both were missing, found the body and called the police. After being taken into custody, she was reported as having confessed the crime, saying, I am sorry," to the police. She spent the night at the police station, often crying and refusing to eat snacks she was offered. Eventually, she ate bread and drank juice. She initially mentioned no motive for the killing. Shortly afterwards, she confessed to police that she and Mitarai had quarreled as a result of a message left on the internet. She claimed that Mitarai had slandered her by commenting on her weight, calling her a goody-goody, and saying that if she was truly brave, she would go through with watching the pop-up window known as the Red Room. What I'm now going to go ahead and show you is the actual flash pop-up animation that is shown to people who click on the Red Room window. It is said that it's cursed and could possibly hold some haunting features for those who would view it. For example, being haunted by, well, the victim of the Sasebo slasher. That said, watch at your own risk. Next up is some of everybody's favorite stuff, ghosts on film. movie recommendation for today is a film known simply as cult or koruto. Written in katakana, that is the pronunciation, and the kana pronunciation of the Romaji word cult. It is simply meaning that which you exactly think it is, a borrowed word from the English language of cult. The actual cult within this movie is nondescript, but seems to be a group following a certain rite of possession. In it, we begin with what seems like nothing more than a very innocent variety show. It invites 3 guests, which are idols or talents, which tend to be anything from an actress to a model to a fashion clothing model in Japan. 3 of these women who do those jobs, which we really aren't completely led to understand, come forward to do this show in which they think they'll just be going through some super scary haunted areas and screaming for the cameras because people like to see kawaii girls be scared by these different things. But what actually turns out to happen is an expert in possession, demonology, and ghost hunting comes onto the show. This man has psychic and kinetic powers. He takes them to these different haunts and shows them how these different spirits can be defeated, which ones are good, which ones are evil, and who are leading the possessions. As we get deeper and deeper into the story, more and more is revealed to us as to how these dark spirits work. And when you finally start to realize what they're doing to the different characters that are participating in these different rituals and how it's starting to affect their lives, it becomes more and more horrifying. The example given and the very simplistic CGI type spirits which are placed into this film are a very, very unique take, not only on the idea of possession, but what people imagine spirits, demons, and possessed people to actually appear and act like. This is the total and utter Japanese take on it, and it is unique and horrifying. I highly recommend this to anybody who is a fan of found footage horror films. If you like paranormal activity, I think you will find this one to be far scarier and show far more horrifying things than anything the paranormal series has to offer. This follows in line with a couple of other movies that this same director has done, such as Noroi, The Curse, and another one known as Occulto, also known as Occult. I highly recommend each one in this series. You should definitely take a look if you're a big fan of found footage horror. Tonight for my game suggestion, the one I want to talk about that's haunted me the most through all of my survival horror history of playing games is a game called Fatal Frame, which there are many of and you may already know, but Fatal Frame 2, specifically Crimson Butterfly. A game also known as Project Zero, Fatal Frame has followed through a series of following a young protagonist, either girl or man, through a different area or haunted type place in which different haunts hang out or have some sort of very horrific backstory. They are then given the camera obscura, which allows them to not only take pictures of the ghosts they're in, but steal the souls away, banishing the ghosts from the areas that they are haunting and protecting you, the protagonist, from being attacked by them. One of the scariest games in this series was Crimson Butterfly, which is number 2. Project Zero, or Fatal Frame, is the name for that, and it follows 2 young girls who are sisters running through the woods and coming across an ancient Shinto shrine. During that time, one of the girls goes missing and the other must go out to find her. What she finds is a horrible, horrible past ritual that had taken place within the Shinto shrine and within the temple locked deep within that. As you'll go through different layers of different characters and monsters' stories, ghosts and all sorts of things are revealed to you. Everything from unreal, vengeful female ghosts to horrifically deformed and mutilated yurei, the ghost of tortured and antagonized, ritualistically killed princesses from the past of Japanese history. It is definitely a scary game and one which I recommend to anyone who wants to take a trip into some of the most horrifying aspects of somewhat believable but overly dramatized and made horrific Edo era type rituals. Are any of these rituals actually real that are within the game? My sources say no. A lot of the things that they talk about are what is called a binding ritual, in which a young innocent virgin princess was tied down and the ropes around her were tightened until the blood was squeezed from her body. That blood was then supposed to protect thresholds from demons entering the Shinto shrine area. Others speak about a mask that would actually be placed upon and forced onto the face of the princess. It had 2 inner spikes that would stab out her eyes, stopping her from seeing all that were supposed to be serving her, so that she had no human contact and could not speak with any of the servants that was taking care of her up into the day of the ritual killing. Is that true? No. No history behind that at all, but there are some pretty scary past rituals from Edo era. These dramatize and make a horrifying and very compelling story of all of them. I highly recommend this to anyone who has a love for yurei, obake, or any other type of Japanese urban legend or myth from past Edo era. I hope I took you into the realms of fear you never imagined you would go, and welcomed you into the world your parents always warned you about. This has once again been Otsurashi Saturday.
Oh,